Welcome back to Dear Career. I'm Tiana, your host. We're going to get into it and talk about green flags of your job hunt. I have a couple episodes actually for this topic, and we're going to break it up into two parts. We'll do some green flags and we'll do some red flags. But to get started, I really wanted to get into the green flags and go through just my top three flags when you're looking for your next position. So getting started, I want to highlight the candidate experience. What is the candidate experience and why is this important? The candidate experience is really your experience that starts from when you apply to a role all the way through to when you get offered a position. So it's really important to look at a whole perspective end to end. What does that experience look like? What does that mean? And the candidate experience is really how you experience the company from a candidate perspective. How are you being put through an interview process? How are you being treated as a candidate, as a potential employee for that company? So it starts really from the moment that you apply to the position and what happens right after you apply. Now, we can go into maybe I'll do another episode of just kind of talking about the candidate experience and what is it and what to look out for. But for now, let's get into some green flags. I'll do a separate episode when it comes to the candidate experience and what does that mean end to end and kind of get into more of the details. But to get started as far as green flags when you're in your candidate experience, the first green flag I would say is going to be good communication. And I know that seems like a given, but a lot of times when candidates are applying to positions, the communication isn't clear. It's a little confusing. Candidates may not know what's next for them. And it's good to have these questions when you're applying to positions, but really good communication should include setting up clear expectations, clear communication about what stage you are in the interview process or in the application process, really providing clarity and ensuring that you don't have many questions. If there's questions once you apply to a position, it can just lead to confusion and not knowing what's next. But also, a lot of candidates get left kind of feeling out in the cold and the company doesn't really care about them or they're just another number. And you really want to try to avoid that kind of stuff when you're in the candidate experience because it really will weigh on your uh, employee experience at the end of the day. So it's important to keep in mind that however your candidate experience is going, it very much may reflect on the employee experience. And if you're having a good candidate experience, likely you will have a good employee experience, leading to maybe a easier decision when it comes to a potential offer. Do you want to say yes in the offer? Are you questioning if you should say yes? And really how you can kind of work through that is the candidate experience. Okay, so another green flag to look out for in your candidate experience is if there is overall an organized process to your experience. I said earlier about good communication being what stage are you at in the interview process? Are you just at the application process and you're waiting to get reviewed? Do you know that? Are you in the interview process and it's just a screening stage? What comes next after that? If there is a process in place, does the employer have steps for you to follow? Are they saying, okay, first step is going to be a screen, then it will be an interview, then it will be a panel interview? Whatever those stages are, does the organization have a process in place? This is really telling to the employee experience because it kind of speaks to overall organizational structures in the company. So, companies who are really spending quality time trying to ensure that their hiring teams are following compliance, are creating a clear process, are creating a compliant process. They're equitable in their hiring practices. It reflects on the interview process and the candidate experience because you can tell when the employer is doing those things. Are they in your application? Are they asking the standard equity questions? Are they being transparent about pay? And you're in a state where pay transparency is required. Things like that, you'll be able to really tell in the application process. But the organization of what's happening as far as what next steps are, the organization to actually having a process takes work. It takes time. It takes commitment. It does take structures. It does take some dedication to either an HR person or a talent person creating those structures and ensuring that there is compliance in place and that the organization is not only being compliant, they're doing their due diligence, they're creating a fair, equitable interview practice and process. Those kinds of things are really important to knowing how ethical the company is, how organized, how structured the company is. When there's a really disjointed process, not only does it lead to confusion, but there can be concerns about the company's overall ethical practices as well as organization in how they lead their teams, how they manage hiring practices, and things like that. So, really important that you can understand if there's overall organized process as far as are there interview stages? Are there interview rounds? Is it clear who is interviewing you? Do you know if it's a peer? Is it the hiring manager? Is it a recruiter? Is it HR? Do you know who is in the conversation with you about um, the position at hand? Different companies are going to do different things. So a lot of times companies will have the HR kind of do initial processes and then they bring in the hiring manager after screenings are done. But some companies go straight in and the hiring manager is very, very heavily involved. And I wouldn't say there's one practice that's better than the other. It really just depends on how the organization wants to handle things. I would say that having clarity around who the hiring manager is really important. Now, I've worked in several different industries, from entertainment to education, to healthcare, in different kinds of environments of big corporates to nonprofit to startup. So many different kinds of environments. And I've seen so many different kinds of ways of handling processes. But one of the things that I find to be a bit of a barrier, I think, for candidate experience is when there are group interviews and or maybe panel interviews. Maybe it's not clear who is actually hiring for the position because it'll be maybe five people on one candidate interviewing. That can cause confusion not only for the candidate and the candidate experience. And think about it. If you're in that position and you have five people interviewing you, do you know who is who? Do you know what roles each people? But also, that's highly intimidating for the candidate experience. If you're going through an interview where it's just you and there's five other people, that's really an insane amount of pressure. So it is a lot. And not that you don't want to go through a pressure type of structure in an interview. There should be some pressure so that you can really display your skills to a high level. It it can be concerning when there isn't clear sight as to who's in charge on a team if there's a panel type of interview. If you have a bunch of peers interviewing, that can be really confusing to group dynamics. Is there somebody who's going to provide leadership and structure, or is it like the team making decisions? And is that an environment that you feel like you can be successful in? So these are some things to really pick apart and really understand when you're going through an interview process that really can be telling. So going back to the main point is the process overall organized? Okay, and now the third green flag is for you to have a good idea about the culture. And a key into this, I will say, is the benefits. So, does the employer have a good set of understandable and what you would consider to be quality benefits? This is telling because an employer who is really spending time really taking note from their employees about what their employees want to see as far as benefits go. Is it, are they full time benefits? Are they including medical, dental, vision? Whatever the benefits are, sometimes they have additional perks. Maybe there's 401k and there's matching. Whatever is included in the benefits, are they, would you define them as being an attractive package of benefits? And if so, what does that say about the company? There's lots of ways to kind of discover pieces about the culture, but the benefits are really telling when an employer is really investing in the benefits for not only hiring but for their employees. And why is this important is because employees want to feel cared about. So if you were to move from a candidate experience to an offer stage, yeah, you want to feel cared about as far as being taken care of in your employment. Why is that important? Because this is how employers retain their employees. Investing in the employee experience really means retaining the employee. Now, there are organizations that maybe can't really afford setting up the benefits or don't have the best benefits package, or maybe they're working towards that. So if you're finding that the benefits package isn't the most quality, a good question to ask would be, how do you envision these benefits continuing to grow? Now, looking for a response on that, if the company is not really giving you a good answer or clarity on a response, that could be telling to how they invest in their employees. But if the company is saying something like, we review our benefits every year, we get feedback every year, and we try to make improvements and adjustments on an annual or some type of regular basis, I would say that's a really good sign of the company getting a good pulse on their employees and really trying to not only reward or recognize their employees, but invest in their employees for long-term retention. That means they want their employees to stay there long-term. They want to see their employees really stick it out with them. When companies aren't doing that, especially in today's world, it does lead to retention issues where employees do not want to stay at the company for a long time. And that's okay because some environments are kind of made for that. But you really want to think about, is that a place that you're at in your life currently? Do you feel like that's something you can do? Maybe the experience is more valuable than the benefits for you. So you want to go through and ask these questions of yourself and really kind of understand them. But I would say a green flag again for your job hunt experience when you're evaluating a company is, how well do they invest in their employees? What is that culture like when it comes to benefits? Are they investing and really spending a good amount of quality time? Do they look like it's a really healthy benefits package, or is it not? So it can be really telling. So again, let me recap on these three green flags for your job hunt or your candidate experience. And that's going to be a good communication from the top, end to end candidate experience, good communication. Number two is overall organized process. And that is organization, if there is even an interview process in place, if there is an application process in place, speaking to, did you have to apply to a position somewhere? Or are you just meeting someone on the street and they say, give me your resume? So thinking about that, having an applicant tracking system or some kind of way to apply to a job officially, especially in today's world now. The handing a resume out on the street is not, and I have a great story for that in the future, but that's not a terrible, terrible thing. But you want to really consider, what does this mean as far as where you are in life, what kind of position, what kind of role. Majority of workplaces are using some kind of digital way to capture the talent or capture candidates' resumes or applications because it's organized, but also because it's a equitable process. And then again, the last one is good, understandable benefits or quality culture. So is a company spending time really investing in the culture by spending money on benefits, and is there a healthy benefits package or not? So Three good flags. If this was something that helped you, if you learned anything here today, please give me a review. Please share your comments. I would love to hear how these tips may have helped you in your job hunt, especially if you're getting near and close to that offer. How did these tips help you to decide if you were going to move forward with the offer? Let me know. I am curious to hear. I'm so excited to learn a little bit more about your experience. What has been a green flag for you? Tell me a little bit more in the comments and make sure you review. Until next time.